Good morning, Warzone kids. Beautiful cold day on the trail here in Vermont. It's -1 at the moment, but it's a lovely day. And Warzone kids, that's my term for those of us that grew up in an environment that was more like a hostile war zone and less like a supportive nursery. I'm a child sex abuse survivor. As an adult, I live with borderline personality disorder. I'm a recovering addict, bulimic, complex PTSD. There's a lot of terms that you can get from the diagnostic book, but what they all add up to is I'm a human being with a soul, a psyche, and I think of that psyche as a Jenga tower. It's a single wooden block, but it's made up of lots of smaller blocks. And our Jenga tower kind of assembles itself when we're kids, puts itself together. And if you're a war zone kid, if you came out of an environment where there's chronic abuse of whatever kind, physical, mental, psychological, emotional, sexual, societal abuse, if you're the wrong race of person at the wrong time and the whole world seems arrayed against you, whatever it's like for you, if you're a war zone kid, then your Jenga tower that you brought with you out of your childhood is like how they look toward the end of the game when they're swaying. And you got to be real careful to touch it because it's about to come toppling down. And the task of healing, the task of becoming whole, as I see it, is putting that Jenga tower back together, brick by brick. And I think of it as a pilgrimage. I think of the Western lands as the place where I'm going, the place of peace and wholeness. And I think of myself as a pilgrim on that path. That's just a way to think about things, but it helps me stay focused. And I did a video a while back called The Blue Pill of Happiness about what it's like for a lot of us Warzone kids to kind of wake up, which is what it feels like when you begin to see the reality of your life and you begin to deal with that, with the reality of what your life is in the present and also what your life was actually like in the past. Because for a lot of us, a lot of our early years was spent in a family where we had to prop up other people's illusions about what life was, if that makes sense. You have to prop up the people around you because they're insistent on living in some kind of a dream world where everything was all hunky-dory and fine. But you yourself are kind of split. You're caught in that dream world and you know it wasn't fine, but for much of your life you spent tamping that knowledge down and learning to look the other way. Well, you don't do yourself any favors as a human being learning how to live in a dream world. And for me, for this child sex abuse survivor, living with borderline personality disorder, I'm a recovering addict and bulimic. I qualify for a lot of other conditions in the big book of diagnostic language, complex PTSD, narcissistic personality disorder, a number of the other ones. But what they all add up to is I'm a war zone kid. I'm a human being with a soul, a psyche that's like that Jenga tower. And that experience of the blue pill of happiness, if the blue pill is what they took in the Matrix to kind of wake up, the experience of taking that blue pill is real weird. Because on the one hand, you feel like you've woken up and now you're seeing the world like it really is to some extent. And that's right. And for a lot of us that grew up in mixed up households where there's a lot of harm caused to us, a lot of that harm was caused by other adults that ain't never taken the blue pill. They're living in some kind of dream world where they're in denial about what the reality was. And you're caught up in that as a war zone kid. You're caught up with the necessity to not only fabricate fictional worlds for you yourself to live in, to make yourself believe everything's fine and to get through the day. I know I've certainly done that for much of my life. But you're also propping up the people around you who are living in their own dream worlds, and they're using you to keep their dream world alive. They need you to do your part to help them maintain their dreamland that they want to live in. There is no future for you living that way, Pilgrim. None. We got to wake up, take that blue pill, keep it down, and live in reality. Live in the cosmos, not in fictitious universes that we make in here. And I was thinking about a lot of what that's like as a human being. It can feel like everything's coming apart. It can feel like the ground is slipping right underneath your feet, because the number of things that you start to question is never ending. When you grow up in an environment in which you had to live in a dream world and help other people prop up their dream worlds just to get through the day and pretend like everything is different than what it was, that's done you a lot of damage and caused you a lot of harm. It caused me a lot of harm. It's caused us a lot of harm as Warzone kids. And it is not easy to stay focused on the cosmos, on reality, on what is right in front of you. It's a challenge of a lifetime to get to the Western lands, where we get to live in the world just exactly as it is, with us, ourselves. We ourselves? My grammar got weak on that. With we ourselves exactly as we are. Sorry. It can feel like everything's coming apart around you, and everything's sliding out from under you, and you don't know what to stand on, because the elements of your life that you've been telling yourself are true for the whole time just ain't. That just ain't the way it was. That's it. It just ain't the way it was. And you got a psyche that put itself together living in a world of a lot of pressure to make yourself believe and act that that is how it was. That nice, warm family where abuse was happening underneath the surface that you have a faint suspicion other people knew about, but they were looking the other way. That's right. They didn't take the blue pill to live in the cosmos. They kept that red pill down to live in the dream world. But if you're a Warzone kid and you want to learn and become who you are, keep that blue pill down and keep your eye focused on the cosmos. And that's where I want to get to the part about how it feels like the ground is coming loose underneath your feet. I do a lot of, well, not in the wintertime I don't. In the summertime, I'm a runner, and I like run on trails. This is a new avocation for me. Took it up last spring. But I love running on trails. And here in Vermont, we got a lot of what they call scree. And that's when you come along to a hillside that seems to be made up entirely of loose rocks. And it's challenging to get across that scree. The rocks keep sliding underneath your feet. And you look down and there's a side of a hill down there, and it looks like you could just go tumbling down the whole way, and you certainly could. But there's a kind of a knack to walking on scree where you just deal with the fact that you're walking on scree. Loose stones that slide underneath your feet. That's what the ground's made of. If you try to walk across scree like it's solid dirt that ain't on a hillside, that ain't covered in loose rocks, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to spend a lot of time slipping and sliding and tumbling. But if you come to accept the fact that you're walking on scree that slips out from under you, well, you'll walk on that scree a different way. You'll just know that when you put your foot down, you can count on them rocks sliding. You can take that into account and you can get across that scree. The scree doesn't last forever. But I think of that as one of the first kind of big hurdles that we come to on the path toward healing. the path to the Western lands. It's when you've taken that blue pill and everything in your life feels like it starts to come apart. Because things that you've taken for granted your whole life, you realize they're slipping and sliding out from under you. That family that told itself a story about what kind of family it was and what kind of Hallmark greeting card you're all living in. And you know the reality of it. And when you start to take on the commitment to live in that reality and to see things just exactly how they actually were, that Hallmark card just slips out from under your feet. All those illusions just slip out from under your feet. You're on the scree slopes. That's all right. Stay on them. Because the only way to get out from that scree is to get through it. There is something on the other side of that scree. You can find a place where the ground feels different underneath your feet. But even in that scree where the ground is slipping and sliding and the rocks are coming out from under your feet, that's still the ground. That's the ground of your life right now. If you're on the scree slopes, you're on the scree slopes. Best way to get across them is to remember the ground underneath your feet is slipping and sliding, but it's still there. You need that ground. You need that scree to get across. You need to learn how to walk on that scree and deal with what it's like inside your mind, inside your psyche, when you have a choice between the blue pill of awareness of the cosmos and living in your life as it really is, and the safety, the pseudo safety of going back and believing in that denial, believing in that dreamland, and trying to walk across that scree slope, pretending it's solid dirt. All that's going to do is send you sliding down the side. There's more on this, but that's enough for today. That's the idea. When you feel like things are falling apart, they probably are. That's okay. That's just scree. You're just walking on the scree slopes where things that you thought were solid are rocks and loose pebbles sliding underneath your feet. Your best way to get across all that is to remember that they're loose rocks sliding underneath your feet. Take that into account and you'll get across that scree. Living in denial is what your life was like, what my life was like when I was trying to walk across that scree and believe in it. Believe it was solid, but things never were what they seemed. I knew somewhere deep down inside the reality of my life. It's up to me to keep it that way and to deal with the fact that sometimes in life it just feels like you're walking on the scree slopes. That's okay. I live in Vermont. If you want to go hiking, you want to go trail running, you want to go walking in the woods, you're going to have to get across some scree. There's just no way around it. Don't be afraid of it. It's just scree. It's going to come slipping and sliding, and that's all right. You start to go down, maintain 3 points of contact, you'll be okay. You ain't going to slide all the way down, not when you know you're walking on scree. The time as a war zone kid, when life is the hardest, when you're living in a sea of suffering, is when you're on scree slopes of other people's denial and other people's hogwash and other people's fictitious stories that they tell themselves to get through the day, to get through their life of illusion. And you're caught up in it and you're trying to pretend those illusions are reality. That's when it's hard. That's when you live in a sea of suffering. You're always slipping and falling down and busting your head on rocks, tripping over tree roots. When you know it's scree, you can get across it. When you come across an awareness in your mind that something that you thought was bedrock reality of your life is slipping under your feet, that's okay. Let it slip. That's reality. The reality of the cosmos in the present moment is that you might be walking on scree. That's okay. We got to walk across a lot of scree to get to the Western lands, pilgrim. To get to the land of wholeness, becoming who and what we are. Them that you see around you that are still living in illusion, pretending that scree is real, solid dirt, they're going to keep on slipping and falling and busting their head on rocks. Don't let them take you down with them. That's what they'll do. Nothing's more dangerous than a drowning person. Nothing's more dangerous on the scree slopes than someone who refuses to acknowledge that they're on the scree slopes They're trying to live in a world of illusion. They'll take you right down there with them. Don't do it, Pilgrim. Keep your eye on the Western lands, the place of healing, the place that's home for us war zone kids. We can get there. And if you're on the scree slopes, that's all right. We can get in our miles for today. That's all we can do. When you feel the ground sliding out from under your feet, be grateful. Because the awareness that illusion is what you've been rocking on your whole life. That awareness is something to be grateful for, because now you know what it is. Keep that in your mind, Pilgrim. Stay in the cosmos. It's a good place to be. Daylight's burning, Pilgrim. We got a lot of miles to go. Let's walk them together.